Hey guys, thanks for joining me. And if you like what you see, please subscribe.
Hello, peoples. Gather around. I want to do a general state of EDC from this last year and what I'm excited about going into next year. This is going to be kind of a longer video, and it's going to include some of the things I never talk about, which I EDC. And it's going to talk about some of the trends that I see, some of the that I think are good, some of the trends that I see that I think are bad, and in general, just kind of talk about what I'm excited about and what I have been carrying in my life to make my life easier every single day. If you get a chance, I would love for you to comment and let me know some of the other things that you might carry which aren't a knife that you really enjoy carrying. Um, First, I'd just like to say that we have been spammed with a lot of cheap knives, and that's been good in some ways. They're all knife-like objects, but there's been very little iteration coming out. And by that I mean um, a lot of these companies are just throwing knife out after knife after knife at you. And that was really cool and original 2 years ago. And now it feels like they're never improving. There's not a new iteration of some of these knives. Some of these companies are a little bit better than others, but they just come out with a knife, see if it sticks, and if it doesn't, it just fades away immediately. So a lot of the knife videos that I watch from other channels and stuff, sometimes it's just like, why am I watching this? And I even feel like sometimes when I'm making a video about a cheaper knife, I'm kind of like, this is not unique. It's a knife-like object that cuts, and maybe it's good and maybe it's bad, but it was just thrown against the wall to see if it would stick. Um, and it's not that interesting to me. The things that I really found interesting a couple of years ago were things like Demco. The 80 20.5, I think, is a great knife and was one of my favorites for a very long time. Still is one of my favorites. Absolutely love the Demco. But this year, they just came out with a Cub, and there was nothing really original about that, which is a smaller version. And then ProTech. I absolutely love ProTech. I've got a ton of ProTech. But this last year, I don't think they came out with one new thing, just iterations, and they're catching up with back orders and stuff like that. And I would really like to see ProTech come out with something new and original this next year. And then things like, Chris Reeves. Are they even still alive? They haven't done anything new in a bazillion years. Changing their steel over doesn't really count. Um, like I would like some of those old guys to put out something new. Spyderco is just doing sprint runs. They haven't done anything. Um, so, you know, that in a sense is just okay, fine. I'm going to talk about some of the knife companies that I absolutely do love and I think are heading in the right direction. But first, let me just go over some of the other gear that I have that I carry a lot. I always wear a watch. I think it's important to have a watch so I don't have to look at my phone because if you look at your phone for the time, 9 times out of 10, you're going to look at a notification and then you're just looking at your phone. If you're trying to enjoy life and you're out there living your life, I think having a watch as an adult is a responsible thing to do. Watches are super expensive, and I'm not going to play that game. I'm not going to pay $8,000 for a watch that I think is nice when it really only costs them $1,000 to make. In fact, I'm never going to spend $1,000 on a watch. A watch has one function, and that is to tell the time. And I'm going to do that the most efficiently I can in a couple of different ways. The illuminator, which I think is less than 20 bucks. If I'm working, I'm just wearing a silly old illuminator, like thing is super easy, easy. Casio is a great little brand, and it's less than 20 bucks, and this is a throwaway knife. If I lose it or if it breaks, who cares? I'll spend another $20. Having said that, I've had this one for about 3 or 4 years now and it's been absolutely fine. And sometimes I also like the G-Shock. This one's a murdered out, blacked out one, and this one's more expensive. I can't remember the price of it. It was like $80 or something like that. But the G-Shock is another great knife, and I kind of wear this one. I want to step it up a little bit. It's all blacked out. It's easy to read. Feels really nice on the wrist, and I can go swimming with this in the ocean or anywhere else. It's good for, I think it's like 80 fathoms or something. I can't remember, 100 fathoms, but it's going to be absolutely good to go in any kind of water environment. So I like this. And if I want to dress up and I want to wear something that looks expensive, I love AV8 and I suggest them to people. You can go with Formex or any of the big name guys and spend thousands of dollars, or you can get a watch that looks like it might be worth thousands of dollars, but is only like 150 bucks. This is an automatic watch. AV8 does all their knives based off of uh, World War II and fighter jets and stuff like that. This is the Spitfire. So their dials are often in the form of a fighter airplane. And on the back, they have this cool automatic movement, um, which is, it's just awesome. You can see the plane spinning around there, which, as you move around the day, it winds up the mechanism for you. I'm not a big watch person and I will never get into watches, but I like being able to wear something nice occasionally if I'm going to be dressed up and going to an event, something like that. The other thing that I'd just like to give a shout out to is like, this is the best wallet I've ever had. I've had it for 2 years now. I've taken everything out of here. And inside my wallet, I always have a pair of earplugs because sometimes I'm going to be around loud power tools or I'm going to go to a concert. It's just, or if I'm camping at night and there's a loud person next to me, whatever. I just find it very useful to always have a pair of earplugs on me. So I always have that in there. This is from Ramblin' Leather Goods. I think you can find him on Etsy. He's out of Seattle, American made, super easy. These two clips here, snapped and super thin profile, carries just what I need, not too much. It makes me choose what cards I'm going to put in there. I have a little magnifying glass that I keep in there too, little flat magnifying glass. And I love this wallet because it just disappears and it's not like this giant thing that I have to carry around. So I really like Ramblin' Leather Goods, and I suggest you check them out too. And then next, as far as pens go, my favorite pens have been Smooth Precision pens, which I run by a guy named Kelvin, and he's actually shutting down. And I've gotten a couple of his pens. This used to be called the Tie Scribe. Now I think I don't remember what it's called. You should look it up and see if you can grab one real fast. This is the titanium. This is a brass one. They are super easy to use. They're almost always in my pocket. And I love writing with them. And the insert that I use for them, or because you can choose what you want in there, is the 307 Signo. And this is you can get the cartridge and put it in one of these pens, or you can just get this Bic version. Is it Bic? No, Signo or Uniball. I love this gel pen. It writes really smoothly and nicely. And so sometimes I'll carry this too. And this pen is just a great pen to have on you. When I'm writing something down, I'm almost always carrying a little moleskin. This one's been used and it's actually already full, but I have a bunch of these and they just have whatchamacallit paper here. Graph paper, which I find really easy to keep my lists on, write down my notes when I'm working on a project, all kinds of things. I always like to have a way to write and to take down measurements or whatever and on me. And so I'm usually carrying these two things as well. And then next, lately I've gotten into carrying a little pry bar. I'm currently carrying one from Lynch Northwest, and this is a really cool little pry bar. So if I know I'm going to be working a lot, I will take this with me because I don't want to be using my knife as a pry bar. I don't carry that as much as I do everything else on this table, but I do find myself reaching for a pry bar every now and then. And then let's talk about flashlights. So the Wubon X3 came out this year, and they had some problems with their release. There's that whole drama out there, whatever. I find it really cool. It swivels, the head swivels around. The buttons are, and it has a little screen here that tells you how much power you have and what lumen rate you're at, right? And I find that really cool. And it has these little side lights here that come on and it glows. This disappears in my pocket, and so I find myself reaching for it a lot because it's just so thin. I don't actually clip it on. I just stick it in my pocket and it locks really easily. It's just 4 clicks. A lot of flashlights are like point button salads is what I'll call them. And by that, I mean, they just keep going and going and going. And if you do the wrong clicking maneuver, suddenly you're on strobe extra bright and it's just crazy. So this Wubon I found intuitive and I can remember all the time whenever I pick it up what buttons do what. Having said that, if I'm not using this and I just want something smaller or nicer, I have this pineapple and titanium from Raylight, and it is super intuitive. You basically just turn it on and off. The last thing that you turned on is the next thing that turns on, and then to get it to shift up to brighter, you don't full click, you kind of half click, and then it will cycle through, and then whatever you turn off on is the next thing that'll come on, and super easy. also disappears in the pocket. And then sometimes if I want something a little brighter, I have this Jet Beam and the Jet Beam Raptor. And this one is super easy because all you need to remember is that it has a dial, and you use the dial to turn it up to whatever level you want. That's it. One button on, rheostat dimmer. There you go. That's all you need. So I really, really enjoy that. And I think it's just super simple to remember and to use. And yeah. Finally, let's get back to the knives. So the things that I'm excited about. I really like what Ray Laconico and Sanford is doing at Monterey Bay Knives. Them working together is really cool. Them using ZDP 189 sheathed at 67 Rockwell hardness is incredible. This is the slayback. They also are not afraid. So this is, made in China, and I think it was like $215. So a really, really good price point for what you're getting. But they're also making things here locally in America, which cost a little bit more, obviously. But they're not afraid of making things from a good OEM abroad and then also making them locally in-house. And they just came out with something called the Rosalinda, which I haven't got my hands on, but they seem to be innovating and moving ahead. Very classic knife shapes in general, right? This is an American-made sea otter, sea lion. But very classic knife shape, and but so super easy to use, and it just their design aesthetic, the way that they keep bringing out new stuff that isn't necessarily the same but has classic lines appeals to me. And the way that they both use Chinese OEMs for some really cool projects, but also make some stuff in-house, is just great. And they're a smaller manufacturing team, and they do good work. I really, really like them a lot. And there's MagnaCut. Speaking of MagnaCut, MagnaCut kind of took over the world this year. It's made people really understand. And Laren Thomas, who designed it, Dr. Laren Thomas, is his channel on YouTube really educates people a lot about knife steels and how it gets hardened and stuff like that. And I've really enjoyed educating myself about that stuff. And I think that it's one of the best things to look forward to in 2024 is what is Laren Thomas going to do next? This is a good all-around steel, MagnaCut is, but when he goes for performance or toughness or something else, what's the next thing he's going to do? I think that that could be really, really cool, and it has me excited. And then, Brian Winters continually is coming out with new stuff, doing iterations, always experimenting. This is the Mirage, which is an assisted action magnet knife, and then you've got the Factor, which came out last year but still really good. And he has the Severin coming out this year, and he's got other knives as well coming out, and he's constantly pushing the bounds of what a knife is and how it should work by using magnets and using other things to just make it more interesting and more interesting finishes, and combining 5 and carbon with a titanium in interesting ways. Just all around, he's just doing things differently, and that excites me. It's not the throw it against the wall, see if it sticks. So I'm also excited to see what Brian Winters comes out with and does next year. And finally, this was kind of the year for me to really get into fixed blades, and in particular, everyday fixed blades that fit in the pocket and that I can carry around and not necessarily be looked at as a crazy person. This daily carry slips into the pocket pretty easily. It does stick out a lot, so I usually only use this on the job site and around my house. But I have smaller things, like I just got this mini Canadian, which just disappears in the pocket, and it's nice to have a little fixed blade on you. So I find myself more and more having just little fixed blades on me. This Mako is incredible. I love the ergos on this, and this is from Creeley Blades. Just really, really cool knife, and he uses high-end steels. I think he has Rex. He has a bunch of different knife steels that you can get. So having a nice in-pocket carry has been cool. So in general, that's what I've been carrying, what I'm excited about this next year. I'm on the pre-order for the Severin, so I'm looking forward to that. I'm trying to get a Rosalinda because I love that. This year I went on a whole kick of just looking at budget knives, and also going back in time and getting some of the old standards. Like, I got the Chris Reeves knives just because I think that I should have a couple just to know what I'm talking about when I'm looking at other high-end knives. And then I got a couple of different hinders as well, just because, again, I wanted to know what they're doing. But then again, they're not necessarily innovating and coming out with new stuff either. So it's not like I'm going to go ahead and suddenly start collecting a bunch of Chris Reeves or hinders or striders, because they're out there, they're doing the same thing and whatever. I'm more excited about the younger designers who are doing cool new stuff and like new ways of making my life easy, like having a nice watch which is like 150 bucks that doesn't break the bank, or just my old Casio but maybe finding a new one, like things like that, or finding like a custom leather worker who does really nice simple work and has reasonable prices and is made in America. That excites me. Little fixed blades that are made in America that are cool for camping and for using around the house and are easy, that excites me. But getting a new K-bar does not excite me. They're doing the same thing that they've always done. And a lot of these prices too are going way over the top. Sometimes, like, with MBK and with Monterey Bay Knives and with Brian Winters, the prices make sense. And you're paying how much it costs to make the knife. And, they're making a profit off of it, but not, an absurd profit. A lot of these other companies, like on their high-end like, who needs another frame lock titanium, which is super expensive? Or on the other end of that, who needs a frame lock with S35 for $100? I'm like, where are they getting these materials to do that? It just seems sketchy. Um, so I'm looking for quality, and I'm looking for things that are innovative, and I'm looking for things that make my life easier and not necessarily harder. So in general, I think that's the state of EDC for me at the moment. I would love your comments. What are some of the things that you carry that I don't carry? What do you think about my opinions? I love all that feedback. Thanks so much for joining me today. If you want to become a Patreon member, you can follow the link down below and you can support this kind of content. I'll see you guys next time on Sharp Ends, and Happy New Year. Bye-bye now.